What up, guys? It's your girl Phoenix Nobel. Welcome to Boss Bitch Tips, and thank you for tuning in once again to another video. Now, today's video is called How to Keep His Focus. I have some notes over here on my whiteboard, so if you see my eyes go over here, you know why, okay? Top 3 tips for the boss bitches out there and boss bitches to be. Number 1. Make room for him in your life equivalent to his investment in you. This is so important. This is so important because we don't often, and I've been a victim of this myself multiple times, we don't often do things based on, usually, based on, we don't often give our attention to things based on how much they give their attention to us, right? We think about it, we like it, it makes us feel good, and so we focus on it more because of how it makes us feel, right? But what if there's no reciprocity? What if that person that we're interested in and that we have our focus on doesn't feel the same way about us, or is focusing on somebody else or something else more than they're focusing on you? Then eventually this is what causes you to feel an imbalance, or you start questioning your value of whether or not they like you, when in fact they may like you, but they're not as interested in you as you're interested in them. So the best way to counter this, in my opinion, is you got to gauge it. You got to pay attention. You got to feel the energy. You can tell when you're overstepping. You can tell when they're overstepping because it feels heavy, like, damn, this person is constantly calling you. Damn, they're constantly wanting your, attention. Damn, they're constantly bombarding you with this and this and this. All these things in your mind because it feels like it's too much. But when you're into somebody, it's hard for you to kind of judge that because you like the way they're making you feel. But one of the best ways to help you not become that kind of person or not get too hung up is by just like baby steps, okay? They inching closer towards you, you inch closer towards them. They inch away from you, you inch away from them. You don't pull yourself in closer or put your zoom lens on when you feel them growing distant. This is where a lot of boss bitches mess up. Even boss bitches mess up right here because we're still human and we still get emotionally invested. But this is where a lot of us mess up because we assume that we need answers and we need to close the gap if we feel one forming. And sometimes guys do the same thing. If they're like, if you pulling away or whatever, or you seem like you're not as into them as they're into you, and they come try to claw in to just temperature check what's happening, don't reestablish your boundaries. Like, okay, I'm not going to worry about them not being there. I'll just feel something else in that space that they used to occupy. Now, what I mean by feel something else in that space is not another person per se, okay? Let's get that straight, because we don't want your energy all over the place and then eventually you just gone and on some other shit. But like, I'm talking about fill it up with you, things that you enjoy doing, things that are worthy of your time, intention, and investment, things that you don't have to question, things that don't question you, and things that reestablish your wholeness, opposed to things that kind of expand on the fact that you're trying to fill up this hole, by another person or somebody else's affection, or arguing or doing something that further creates the distance but does not heal you. Sometimes it makes you more angry or makes you want to be combative, and I'm not talking about that kind of energy. I'm talking about, all right, this is what it is. And if you don't want to take that approach, then let it go. But sometimes people pull away because they need a little bit of space. Not everybody who pulls away is cheating or doesn't want to be with you or is testing you. Sometimes it's not always about you, but if you don't try to immediately fill that space up with somebody else or with trying to pull them back in, then you give them room to figure out what it is that they need to figure out for whatever reason that they're pulling away, as well as you give yourself room to observe them from a distance, not stalking them or becoming obsessed with what they're doing, on the slide, but you get a chance to kind of like gauge it out by just feeling the energy. And then when they're not around you, you focus on reconnect with yourself. Do things that make you happy, things that you would do with or without them in your life. All right, that was the longest number one, but that was number one. Don't try to close the space that they create. Fill it in with you. All right, if they make it gap, then you make a gap. Okay, you ain't gotta say it. It doesn't have to be like, I'm making a gap because you're making a gap. But just don't try to bring them back towards you, and don't put somebody else in that space just so that you don't feel the void. Create more of you in that space that they once occupied, because that's how you stay whole during relationships. You should never not be whole. Nobody should ever complete you. They can add to your happiness, or they can, you can create something together. But I don't think a relationship should be about completing each other. Number 2, finally, be the person that you would date. Be the person that you would date. Somebody who you would like to be around, somebody who you would actually like to spend time with, from your habits to your personality traits to your emotional displays, in terms of, are you mature emotionally? Are you too sensitive? Can you be, are you okay with your partner looking at beautiful people, not disrespecting you, of course, but like, are you the kind of person who smacks the hell out of your partner because they noticed or looked in the direction as somebody that was attractive, that was walking by? I used to have a homegirl, man, who had her dude trained. Anytime that there was a relatively pretty girl who was walking past, he would just it just became a default setting of his, where he just jumped and kind of just looked straight, because he knew that she was going to be checking to see whether or not he saw this girl walk by. And I used to be like, yeesh, it just made my head spin, because I'm just like, what kind of nonsense is that? Everybody has their, we've all been there, and to some extent, so I'm not going to say that, but I remember thinking to myself, wow, that was just crazy. Of course, we want you to think that you want our partner to believe that we are the best, most beautiful thing in the world. But it's just not realistic that there's nobody else that is beautiful out there, and put together and good to look at. Why can't people appreciate other people's beauty? And why does it have to mean that you are less beautiful? So be the kind of person that you would actually enjoy being around. Be somebody who's fun. Be somebody who is fair and kind, and just somebody who enjoys themselves and enjoys life, who's not always complaining or just miserable, and making a person feel like they're not happy unless you make them happy. You know what I'm saying? There are some people like that in the world who do that, who make you feel like it's your job to make them happy, right? So be the kind of person that you would actually enjoy being around. This will keep us focused, because number one, you seem like you happy, right? You seem like you good by yourself, and that you love yourself, and that you take care of yourself, and that you're controlled and put together and not so emotionally unstable, whereas though every move that people make around you, you got to respond to it, or you got to respond to this person ain't this, or politics, and this, at some point in time, yeah, maybe people enjoy that conversation a little bit, but if that's who you are, then at some point in time, it's going to be heavy. It's going to feel heavy, even in you. So be the kind of person that you would enjoy being around. And number 3, last but not least, Make the time he spends with you enjoyable. Even if you don't see each other all day or sleep together every night, make him have happy thoughts about you when he thinks about you when he's apart from you. Because that's what we repeat. We repeat the time, we repeat when we're away from the situation, we repeat the pleasantries. And you want the person that you're interested in to think of you and associate those happy memories with you, your energy. You know, she did this, or she did that, or we had this, or we watched this together, or we went here, or we seen this. We don't argue that much. We don't have that much drama. And no, we don't, even if you do spend a lot of time together and you do live together, yeah, it's realistic to not agree on everything, especially if you're always together. That's just reality. That's going to happen. I'm not pretending that everything is going to be bliss and that you can't ever have a moment of like disagreement and just like being on opposite sides of the fence. I'm just saying that when he thinks of you, for the majority of the time, you want him to think happy thoughts. You want him to think peaceful thoughts. You want him to think kindness. You want him to think of you and get warm, fuzzy butterfly feelings in his stomach. Because that's what makes us loosen up. It's what makes us like we fall in love, because it's not something that we usually run into with our eyes open. You know, when you go to bed, you fall asleep. You can't fall asleep if your mind is like, you know, there's so much drama, so much crazy thoughts, so much, you know, we stay up thinking about the things that are hard, you know, and sometimes when it's too hard and too heavy, it's like, I need a break. You don't want it to feel like work. You want it to feel like it's a drowsy, tender sleepiness when he thinks about you. And so the way to do this is to pick your battles, right? Like, is this worth me arguing over? Is this a necessary battle? Do we have to fight about this? Is this something that I can't live with? Can I live without this? Am I really irritated at him, with him, or is this something, like, think about what you say before you say it. Think about the argument you want to have before you have it. Think about this tantrum that you want to throw before you throw it. Because you're storing up memories in his mind that are going to be replayed when he's away from you. And you don't want him to have negative thoughts this high and positive thoughts this low. Because eventually, he's going to try to find distractions or things where he can actually artificially kind of like get the balance back to this. Because if he can't do that with you and get the positives up here and the not so goods down here, he's going to look somewhere else to make him happy, so that when he comes back to you, he feels less stressed out. You want to be the source of the majority of his happiness. Not in terms of like, okay, is he happy as a person? But you don't want to be somebody who adds pressure or drama to his life. And you don't want him to be that kind of way towards you. And if he is, that's not the right relationship, and you don't want his focus anyway. But this keeps a man's focus. If you're less drama-filled, if you're less nagging, if you're less, oh gosh, she's like my mom, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, the longer you're together, you're living together, you have to adapt to each other. Sometimes guys are like this towards us, and we might not always like it either. So this goes two ways, but this is for boss bitches. So if you're a boss bitch and you want to understand how to keep his focus on you, or your partner's focus on you, implement these 3 tactics and let me know in the comments below if they actually ring true and work for you. Once again, it's your girl, Phoenix Novell. Thank you for tuning in to Boss Bitch Tips, and I hope these videos help. Peace.